This has been the ADT Security NBC Sports Update. ADT Security Services, the world leader in home and business security.
This is the Bank of America Countdown to Green as we get set to go racing.
The chase for the Nextel Cup Championship has arrived in Alabama. This is Talladega, and today the track is the star. 2.66 miles, a repaved back road that is fast, frightening, and frustrating. The biggest names in NASCAR have studied here. They've all taken a crash course in restrictor plate racing. Next stop in the chase, 500 miles at Talladega. NBC Sports, in association with NASCAR, presents round 4 of the chase for the Nextel Cup Championship from the Talladega Superspeedway in Alabama. Hi, everybody. Our NBC Race family, happy to welcome you to Talladega. This is the Bank of America Countdown to Green. I'm Bill Weber. This is the race that puts the wild in wild card. While every week presents challenge and opportunity, the rules here increase the risk of losing points rather than the reward of gaining them. Restrictor plates limit horsepower, so here at Talladega, the drivers are forced to race in big packs at fast speeds, where one mistake can lead to the big wreck. For the drivers in the chase for the Nextel Cup, this is a race where luck can truly beat skill. Here are the 10 drivers in the chase and today's starting positions on the right-hand side of the screen. The maximum point change possible in one race is 156 points. That means 7th place Dale Earnhardt Jr. could leave here with the championship lead, but Johnson, Busch, and Kane can only hope to improve their starting positions. The track is the star of this race, and in the 5 months since the series raced here in May, the racing surface has gotten a facelift. The cars practiced on Friday, and the speeds were high. Too high for NASCAR, and that led to a change in the size of the restrictor plate being used today. Let's get that story first, starting with the track itself, and here's Dave Burns.
And Bill, the reason those speeds were way up is simple. There were no brakes in the middle and no bumping. Before, cracks and bumps in the racing surface caused a disruption in the aerodynamic act of a car sticking to the racetrack. Now it's so smooth that the car is glued to the track 100% of the time, allowing crew chiefs and engineers to take full advantage of the cars being right there for 500 miles today. Now, repaving this place was a huge task. It is NASCAR's steepest and longest superspeedway. They actually had to mill the backstretch in the front trioval and resurface that, but the turns were the trick. They went down 11 inches and put in 6 inches of base plus 5 inches of asphalt, and the rollers and pavers had to be tethered to bulldozers at the top of the track so they wouldn't slide down the 33 degrees of banking and sort of upset the task. But they did it, and they did a great job. The drivers all agree on that, but they were so comfortable that the speed shot way up, and over 198 miles per hour. That is beyond the comfort level that NASCAR has for safety. So NASCAR slowed the cars down just a tick, the best way they know how. And for more on that story, we go to Marty Snider.
And Dave, the best way NASCAR knows how to do that is put on a smaller restrictor plate. Here's the one we started the weekend with. It is 57/64 of an inch around the holes right there. Now what they did is they went to a 7/8 of an inch plate, which is barely smaller than the 64 plate. And what it did, 1/16 of an inch smaller holes. Those tiny little holes now took out about 8 to 16 horsepower, 2 to 3 miles an hour. And the reason NASCAR did that, as you mentioned in the packs on Friday, 198 miles an hour in packs of 15 cars. Today they expect the packs to be around 30 cars, so the speeds could have been well over 202 miles an hour. Now, Robin Pemberton from NASCAR told me this morning 196 is the threshold where NASCAR starts to look at bringing the speeds down a little bit, because at 196, testing shows them that when a car gets sideways, it can get upside down, and that's certainly not anything that anyone wants. But the change this weekend made the crew chief's job a little bit harder.
To be quite honest with you, the little bit they changed it, it's really not that big a thing. It just cuts back the power and the speed a little bit. I'm sure it's going to affect the cars with fuel mileage, but it ain't going to be that big a deal.
I think it's going to cause the field to be a little bit tighter. The draft is going to be a little more sensitive. The cars are down about 10 horsepower, which doesn't seem like much, but means a lot to us here in the garage area. So it might make the difference between pulling out and making a pass and not making a pass.
A lot of guys make gear changes. It's going to affect everyone's engines a little differently. You have no practice. It's basically a brand new racetrack, new tires, new restrictor plates. So, it's a big question right now how these cars are going to race.
So what will be the difference to you at home watching today? Probably not very much. The pack should be a little bit closer together, as some of the crew chiefs said. And as one driver told me this morning, the one key to the whole thing, you cannot lose the main pack, because if you do, having less horsepower, it'll be even harder to catch up to that big group. Now the man who will lead the pack to the green flag with Matt Yocum.
Marty, no stranger to see the Yates cars on the front row here at Talladega, but it is for David Gilliland, his first restrictor plate race and first pole. So what are your concerns going into today's race starting at the point?
Our first and foremost concern is, finding people to work with us throughout the race. But I feel like we have a very fast car, and we got DJ up there, our teammate, and, look forward to working with him a little bit and just gaining some friends out there and showing them that we can do it and we belong up there.
He won here last fall. What kind of advice did he give you, not only about the opening laps, but the entire day?
He just kind of let me know to I asked him kind of what I should do to start up there, and he said just kind of pick a lane, and if you get hung out to dry, don't be in a hurry to try and squeeze back in line, or don't take any unnecessary chances. So that's the plan for today. We're going to start up there, and if we can stay up there, we're going to, and if we get shuffled back, then so be it. We'll work our way back up, and and earn some people to work with throughout the race on the way.
Talladega is so unpredictable. David tries to be the 9th different driver to score his first Nextel Cup win right here at Talladega. Bill?
Denny Hamlin is one driver who hopes the standings are not scrambled up at the end of the day, because he's second in points entering this race. Denny, why does or does not this race make you any more nervous than any of the others in the chase?
Well, I think it's going to be the same for everyone. This is the one that, in the chase that everyone's knew was going to be a bullet. So we're going to see what happens. And we've been pretty fortunate to try to stay out of wrecks all year long, but you can't always help it on the Superspeedway.
You start 12th today. How do you approach the early part of this race?
I think I'm going to field out for probably the first 15 laps, and if I can make my way inside the top 10, I'd like to try to stay there. If I'm mired back in 20th, 25th, then I need to probably reevaluate where I'm at and probably head back there with the veterans and know what they're doing.
All right, Denny. Good luck today. Denny Hamlin, second in the championship. Marty.
NBC Sports, in association with Nascar, presents round 4 of the chase for the Nextel Cup Championship, live from the Talladega Superspeedway in Alabama. Partly sunny skies, temperature about 78 degrees in Talladega today. Let's take you trackside and join the pre-race ceremonies.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, everybody. Bill Weber along with Wally Dallenbach, and it's certainly a pleasure to welcome back Benny Parsons to today's race. Thanks for having us in for this action from Talladega. Well, they've repaved the track. They have a smaller plate. It's a different tire, but it's the same old Talladega.
It's the same old Talladega. For a race car driver, the next 500 miles, there's no place that's any more stressful. There's no place that a driver concentrates harder, and there's no place where the whole time you're racing this place, it's in the back of your mind that you could be in the wreck. This is a very difficult. When you're done with this race, you are mentally exhausted because you're just so focused. You can't take your concentration off of what you're doing for 1 second. It's very, very intense.
And you also have a cramp in your left leg because you sit there with your left leg poised above the brake pedal for 500 miles because you want to cut that reaction down. You don't have to pick up your foot to hit the brake, because if something happens, if there's smoke in front of you, you want to slow down as quickly as possible and try to avoid getting in the big one. And we talk about the big one. What causes all this? A restrictor plate. NASCAR at these racetracks mandate the cars use a restrictor plate to slow the cars down. They cut the horsepower basically in half. And this is what you see. Cars running around the racetrack 3 wide, nose to tail. Now, if they're far apart, they're a long ways apart compared to what they're going to be in the race today.
There's a tremendous amount of intensity, as Wally talked about, in the cockpit for the driver, always watching what's ahead of them. Really can't do much about it when something goes wrong.
There really isn't. When you're in a race like this and something happens in front of you, you're basically along for the ride. It's mainly luck. I mean, we've seen so many big crashes here. And I'll tell you what, when you're a race car driver and you're in one of these crashes, and we all have been as race car drivers, it's amazing what you see out of the windshield sometimes on one of these wrecks. And like I said, you're just along for a ride. It's like a pinball. So a lot of this this deal is just being lucky to get through a crash.
Benny, you've been able to watch the last couple of weeks. The chase is pretty intense.
It is pretty intense. Jeff Burton last week at Kansas had a great run and increased his points lead, but this is a wild card that everyone is concerned about. Talladega getting through the big crash. Hopefully there will not be one today, but chances are there will be.
The teams came here on Friday and had 2 practice sessions. They qualified on Saturday. It was an impound race, so no adjustments basically after qualifying. The racing service is smooth. It's fast. They have the smaller plate. We'll see what happens. 150,000 plus are here today, and now the 4 words they've been waiting for all weekend.
Race fans, it's time for the most famous words in motorsports. Will you please welcome Director UAW Region 8, Gary Castile, to give the command.
For all the men and women of the United Auto Workers and Ford Motor Company, gentlemen, start your engines.
Talladega, the roar of the crowd can drown out the roar of the 43 cars, but they've come to life on pit road. You're watching NASCAR on NBC. NASCAR Nextel Cup Racing from Talladega is brought to you by Allstate, official insurance sponsor of NASCAR, by Budweiser, the official beer of NASCAR. This is Budweiser, this is beer. By Bank of America, experience higher standards in checking only from Bank of America. And by Team Chevy and the 2006 Monte Carlo SS, now with the legendary small block V8, an American revolution. Sony, the official high-definition television of NASCAR on NBC, takes your NASCAR experience to another level with Sony Full HD 1080, the world's most powerful HD experience. Cars rolling off of pit road here at Talladega. Budweiser, the official beer of NASCAR, is the proud sponsor of the Budweiser Pole Award, given to the fastest qualifier at each NASCAR Nextel Cup Series race. Budweiser congratulates David Gilliland for his first career pole in just his 8th career start. There you see the cars. Here's the Harley-Davidson starting grid for Talladega. Gilliland on the pole, and former Talladega winner Dale Jarrett, his teammate outside of row 1.
Row 2, Hendrick teammates. Jimmy Johnson on the inside and Jeff Gordon on the outside.
On the inside of row 3, the first Jack Roush car. On the outside, Kyle Busch, the third Hendrick car. Biffle on the inside.
In row 4, Sterling Marlin and Jamie McMurray.
Row 5, 2 guys looking for the first win. Brian Vickers and J.J. Yaley on the outside for Gibbs.
On the inside of row 6 is Ryan Newman. On the outside, Denny Hamlin, currently second in NASCAR Nextel Cup points.
Winner could come out of row 7 today. Former series champion Tony Stewart and Kevin Harvick, one of the 10 drivers chasing the Nextel Cup.
Joe Nemechek on the inside of row 8. On the outside, Martin Truex Jr.
Row 9, we find on the inside Carl Edwards, the second Jack Roush car, and Kyle Petty. Great run for him on the outside.
In row 10, Matt Kenseth, another one of the chasers, and Mike Bliss with a solid qualifying run.
Inside of row 11 is one here before, Michael Waltrip. On the outside, Elliott Sadler in the 19 car.
On the inside of row 12 is Kenny Schrader in the 21 car. Paul Menard, a regular on the NASCAR Busch Series, on the outside.
And as we take a look at the rest of the starting grid for today's race at Talladega, VP is going to jump on the radio and see who is on the other end.
Jeff Burt, Benny Parsons, you get me?
Yeah, I got you, Benny.
Jeff, you're starting 34th today. Does that change the strategy any?
Oh, it really doesn't. I mean, this race is pretty much the same no matter where you start. Obviously, the first few laps will be different, but people in the front at some point are going to be in the back, and people in the back at some point are going to be in the front. So the key is being in the front at the right time.
Those first few laps, you're going to hang back in the back and just see what happens?
I'm sorry, Benny, I didn't just hear you.
Those first few laps, you're going to hang in the back and just see what happens?
Oh, we're not not going to do anything different than what we've been doing all year long, and we haven't any time we've ever done that. It seems like we got in the ring, so that's not our strategy. Our strategy is to try to be smart, but we're not going to hang in the back. We're going to do what we normally do.
Well, Jeff, thank you very much, and have a great day.
No, man.
The championship leader, Jeff Burton, field warming up on the track at Talladega. When we come back, final stories from pit road and the green flag.